Hello folks, it is time to dive into some hobby nightmares. After a wonderfully controversial video yesterday, I love it. I love rustling people's jammies, it's really funny. But anyway, moving on to our hobby nightmares section for the day. Hope you're all doing well. I have recently, as of yesterday, organised my hobby space. So I have different areas for different armies, and I really do advise you to do that. If you want some mental health help, dude, it really did, it helped me, because sitting with a load of models around me and not really knowing where things fit and where things are meant to be, now everything is done, it is such a salve to your mental health just to turn around, look at your hobby space and see everything where it's supposed to be. Great stuff, awesome. Anyway, moving on to our first hobby nightmare of the day, and this is from Jester. Hope you're doing well, man. He says, "Hi North, hope you and yours are doing well. You can call me Jester. I'm a long-time listener, first-time writer, but I thought I'd share where I infuriated a dungeon master so much he left the table. I'm not going to like you, am I? Let's see. To start it off, and give some context, it was the tale as old as time. There was a girl, who is now thankfully my wife, but as I started to get to know her, it came up that she played D&D at a local store. I'd been playing for a little while and decided to give it a shot, mostly just to get closer to her. However, this group was an absolute disaster. It was made up of the most dysfunctional and strange people the United States had to offer. And to really bring it all together, it was led by an incompetent, arrogant, railroading dungeon master who was constantly bending the stories around his own girlfriend. I decided to just bring in the first character I'd ever made, Fodril. He was an outcast dwarf barbarian who had the intelligence roughly of a bag of rocks. What he lacked in intelligence, he made up for in creativity. He brought the same creativity to battle, always trying to find a way to use the landscape to his advantage. To lay the groundwork quickly, the first session was an escape from a prison caravan. All our weapons, armour, etc. were taken away from us, so Fodril reveled at the chance to be creative in battle. While the other people were doing simple unarmed attacks, I asked if I could use my turn to rip a body's arm off, naturally to use as a sword later, or a bludgeon. The DM said that was fine, and had me roll strength for it to do so, which my buff little dwarf naturally passed. Fodril, now armed, literally, used his new weapon to great effect. However, this irritated the DM to no end, and he groaned every time I did something different than just throwing a punch, even though I asked to make sure every action was okay with him. After many little comments to me and other players, it was clear he was stacking the odds against the party. He wanted us to die, and wanted all combat to be as boring and plain as possible. But most of all, he was frustrated what he wanted to do wasn't happening. After this, I really didn't want to come back, but you know it, that girl said she enjoyed playing with me and wanted to come again, so I did. After several more sessions, and much more whining from the DM about me and every other player, the incident occurred. It had been a week or two since he had last attended a session due to school, so when it started, the DM decided I should be separate from the rest of the party, and told me I was in the woods with a new player at the table. He was a dwarf barbarian like me, and we got along swimmingly. For a little while, we tried to get our bearings, but the sun quickly started to set, so we made camp and set up watches. When it came time for my character's watch, there was a loud booming coming from the woods, and the ground began shaking. The way the DM described this, it was every indication that it was a threat, and my glory-hungry dwarf was definitely going to treat it as such. I quickly woke the other character, and we charged into battle with what turned out to be a giant. Once the combat started, me and the other player both went into frenzy, and tried to hurt the giant, but it wasn't going well. We were severely underleveled, so my character thought to himself, "Little axe stick no work, need big stick." I asked the DM how tall the trees in the woods were, and they stretched all above our and the giant's heads. Naturally, my little dwarf decided to chop down a tree onto the giant, whilst the other player kept him distracted. After making sure this was okay with the DM, explicitly saying, and I quote, "Hey, if you don't want me to do this, that's fine. I can just do combat as normal, it's not a problem, but this is what my character is thinking right now, you know?" unquote. Totally reasonable. He gave the go-ahead, as he should. A novel solution, as he should. I spent 2 or 3 turns pouring all of my attacks into the tree, and right before my buddy was killed, the tree was felled. The DM told me to roll for accuracy to see if the tree fell where I wanted it to. Natural 20. It fell squarely on the head of the giant, whilst the other player was out of the way. The DM rolled damage, and I effectively one-shot the giant. Despite giving me the go-ahead, the DM suddenly decided to fly into a rage, and started ranting and rambling about how it was a good giant, and how I also ruined the combat and should be dead. He got so worked up he began to yell all the same things at me, and I just sat there, and after a while said, and I quote, "Look, my character doesn't even share a language with the giant, and you described him as a threat that was going to kill us unless we killed it first. I asked to make sure you were even okay with me cutting down the tree, since I know you usually like more vanilla combat. I didn't do anything wrong," unquote. This caused him to absolutely fume, and he walked out of the room and hid in a back room. Okay, yeah, I was wrong about not liking you. This guy is a douche. Thankfully, the rest of the party was pretty much there just to chill and chat, and seemed to barely notice the DM was gone. Bad sign, yeah. Again, bad DM. Really, really, really bad DM. Like if your party doesn't even notice you're not at the table anymore. Dude. Normally, I would have left, but I was actually getting along really well with the new player I was put with. So him and I got chatting, and I helped him build his character more. After 30 minutes, the DM came back to the table and shifted to the rest of the party, ignoring me the entire rest of the night while I just chatted with the new guy. I could very well have been the nightmare in this situation, but I think largely it just came down to not playing with the right group and a very bad DM. I still went back a few times after that, but naturally, just for the girl. Not really relevant to the story, but I have attached the picture of a mega gargant I made. That's definitely a gargant, and not a bunch of goblins operating a rickety mech, like some would have you believe. The majority of the model is made with sprues. Thank you, Jester. Alright, let's have a look. No, you didn't do anything wrong, by the way. You were fine. You did absolutely everything fine. It's unfortunate that you had a DM who was, doing that, but it is what it is. That is cool. Dude, I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, if you can't really afford a Gargant, this is the kind of thing you need to be doing. This is awesome. I love this. Absolutely love it. It's so clever. I love the steering wheels on the legs. That's really cool, man. I love that. Dude, it's got a giant's head up there. Brilliant. I'm going to leave that up for a bit. I love that. It makes me so jolly. Right. Next Hobby Nightmare. Right, the title of this is called A Friend of Mine Called Lucy. Alright. Hey North, call me John. Alright, I will do. New subscriber here. Well, thank you. Congratulations for joining a really cool channel, I hope. And I wanted to thank you for all the great videos you put out there. I have a Hobby Nightmare from a few years ago, but it's from D&D and not Warhammer. Well, it's Friday. That's what we do here. Hope that's okay. It also might be a bit risque for the channel, so hopefully you get a good laugh regardless of whether you read it out or not. Either way, this is a story about somebody who became a great friend of mine through nerdy stuff like D&D as well as martial arts. In the business, we call this foreshadowing. He is a smaller, unassuming guy, around 5'6", but 10 pounds of pure muscle, all from the martial arts. He's never lifted a weight in his life. 2 things you should know about him. One is that the few people who know him as Lucy. The other thing you should know is that he is one of these guys who is completely adverse to conflict. Always kind, always charitable to strange people. Basically, the embodiment of never assume malice when you can assume ignorance. I've seen a few guys in our old boxing class punch him square in the face out of nowhere, only to have Lucy slow things down and explain sparring etiquette with a smile on his face. Honestly, when I was getting to know him, it would infuriate me because I thought he just wouldn't ever stand up for himself. I've always hated how the nicest people settle for bad treatment. Some of your other videos, I gather that you have the same opinion. I do. But on the flip side, it's always guys like this who you don't want to make snap. Do you know what I mean? It's guys like this you don't want to take liberties with. Because eventually, you know what I mean? You catch them on the wrong day. You go after them just at the wrong moment. and they absolutely knock your block off. Do you know what I mean? This is not the kind of guy you want to be pushing. You know, just understand that you are alive when he is sparring with you because of his restraint and nothing more. Right? Cool. The same reason why, you know, partners shouldn't hit each other. But I always say, especially women, like, don't hit your man. Don't do it. Don't raise your hands to him. Right? Again, it's a given. Lads, don't hit women. Ridiculously cowardly thing to do. But on the flip side, right? Ladies, don't ever do that. Don't ever make it physical, because you might just catch him on the wrong day. And if you catch him on a wrong day, he's a lot stronger than you, right? He can very easily kill you by accident. He's a lot stronger than you. He may not be... The only thing... If you hit a man in public or in private, the only thing keeping you alive is his restraint. That's it. That's the only thing keeping you alive, is his restraint. Because he wants to throw you into traffic. So just be careful, right? Same thing goes for anybody with one of these quiet, hard dudes. You know what I mean? The reason why this guy's just smiling when people aren't sparring with him properly is because he knows he can twist them into a pretzel if he wanted, but he's not. Right? It's never the loud person at the bar you need to worry about. It's the quiet dude. The quiet dude who looks like he's hard. That's the one you want to be wary of. Alright. Well, one day after boxing, Lucy was talking about how I have a great build for Muay Thai. I'm a very skinny 6'3", and remember when I said he is 210 pounds with no fat. I struggled to maintain 200 pounds whilst being 9 inches taller than him. He saw that I had a big smile after being told I'd be good at Muay Thai, and so he told me that he would be my punching bag if I tried it out. Even told me he would show me Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu styles that would suit me if I went to that class too. I again took that punching bag comment as a sign of insecurity, and since my girlfriend had all of a sudden got into D&D and wanted people to roleplay with, I said I would go to the class if he joined our first group, in the hopes it would give him some confidence beyond the sweatbox of the gym. He was hesitant, but when our mutual friend, we will call him Jack, put his arm around Lucy and then invited himself too, Lucy kind of missed his chance to back out. So, fast forward about 2 weeks, and my girlfriend Ivona, pronounced Ivona, no problem, was incredibly nervous about being the dungeon master in her first ever game, which wasn't helped by the fact it was mostly strangers to her that show up at our house to play. Our group was me, her, Lucy, Jack, one of her friends from college, and another guy from her college that she found through their school club's network. Let's call this guy Dave. Jensen, whatever name is given to the cretins. Alright, we'll call him Dave for now. Oh no, you're calling him Jensen. Okay, well, we'll call him Jensen then. Jensen looked and acted exactly like your Vampire the Masquerade video described. He showed up 35 minutes late, and then had the gall to rush people who were finishing their drinks because they were wasting his time. He didn't shake anybody's hand when he introduced himself, but when introducing himself to Ivona, he went straight in for the hug without signalling for one. She is pretty though. She is pretty, though me and her look like Shrek and Fiona together, but that's beside the point. Well, okay. Here's the thing, right? Okay, I think you're going a bit too far here, because you don't need to signal for a hug, dude, alright? Go in for the hug, and if she doesn't want to do it, she'll back away, right? What this guy's doing wrong, what Jensen's doing wrong here, is he's treating her differently to everybody else, quite obviously, which is a really creepy, horrible thing to do, right? But you don't need to ask to hug somebody. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you're in a situation where you're introducing people, you know? It depends on the hug, by the way. It depends on the hug. If you're going in like, oh yeah, like one of them hugs, no, that's a bit weird. But if you're just like, hey man, how's it going? You know, that's fine. You know, it's fine. It is what it is. In fact, no, shut up, North. No, I've just thought about that some more. Don't do this. Don't hug people without their permission. I just thought that. Do you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking my missus and her friends, they love hugging, right? They're just all over it. That's what I'm used to. But now I'm extrapolating it to people I don't know. Yeah, don't do that. Don't hug people you don't know. Shake the hand. Yeah. Anyway, we get to the game and choose our characters and such. But as we go through the story, he has a hard-on for trying to get my character killed or stranded for no apparent reason, which didn't bother me especially since my girlfriend understood that the DM is a dictator, so she just made up workarounds to keep the group together. When Jensen realised that this wasn't getting much of a reaction, he started making strange comments towards Ivona. If he did something small, and she said, "Good job, so now your character goes on to blah blah blah," he would interrupt saying things like, "I thought you'd like that," or something creepy like that. Now Jensen is a big guy, my height but probably 300 pounds or so I kept my mouth shut and shared some what the hell looks with Lucy and Ivona. Jack, on the other hand, being the guy who invited himself, doesn't have much of a filter. After the third creepy comment, Jack piped up with, "Let me do something cool here so mommy can call me a good boy, oh yeah." I cannot explain the sad puppy dog face that Jensen showed through his anger as the entire dinner table erupted in laughter like hyenas from Lion King or something. Everybody except Lucy was struggling to control themselves. Lucy didn't laugh once, however, and after a minute when Jensen started trying to argue, Lucy gave him a smile and said something along the lines of, "Hey man, you had that coming, but we are still friends here, let's win this thing together, right?" Something about him saying that turned the laughter into a few giggles here and there when we got on with the game. Yeah, this is what I mean. When a man who rarely says anything, angry, finally says something, everybody shuts up. This is why the old phrase, right? You know, a fool speaks because he has to speak. A man speaks because he has something to say, right? If you have nothing to say, don't say anything. Yeah? An idiot speaks because he has to speak. A wise man speaks because he has something to say. And that's that. The more you talk nonsense, the less people will want to talk, will want to listen to you, right? But if you sit there quietly and just take in everybody's opinions and then give your own, that's it. That's what you want, right? And there will be people out there like I've got friends who do this, right? They seem to think an opinion means that you're like overly opinionated. Do you know what I mean? I've had that before. So I'm genuine. Like I don't really talk at other people, right? I will listen to what they have to say and then I'll give my opinion on something, right? But I've had friends who've called me like, "Oh, well, you're so opinionated." What? Because I have an opinion on the thing you were talking about. Why are we talking then? If this isn't a back and forth, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to just sit here whilst you do your talk show? Like, what are we doing? You know? I got a mate who's like, I watch Joe Rogan sometimes, mainly when I'm at the gym because it's long form content and it's genuinely sometimes really interesting, right? And I got a mate who's like, "Oh, I don't like that Joe Rogan guy. No. He's way too opinionated." I'm like, dude, he has a podcast that hundreds of millions of people watch. Yes, he has opinions. Like, I just don't get it, dude, you know? Anyway, what Lucy is doing here is he is essentially talking and giving this guy a verbal put down that isn't even a put down that makes everybody shut up because they're not used to him talking like that, which is good. This is until Jensen failed a perception check thing and started arguing with Ivona about how she was useless as a DM and his time was wasted. This is where I chimed in and said, "Listen, I don't care about the game. Let's not throw insults at each other over a game, alright?" Jack, on the other hand, was ready to say something extremely offensive, as he always does, but Lucy put a hand on his shoulder and just shook his head. This was another time I was angry at Lucy. I thought that even when my girlfriend gets insulted in my own house, that he just puts his head in the sand. It was really starting to get on my nerves. I can see why, yes. Well, this might be a good moment for a sip of tea. Good, I will do. There we go. Lovely bit of Yorkshire. I'm about to get to the one time I saw Lucy lose his patience and how I learned what his deal with being so shy was, and also why he has a nickname like Lucy. Up until this point, I'd heard multiple times people ask about his name. He'd always just brush it off, and I assumed it was a nickname to mock him or something. So everybody chilled out, and we actually finished the game, somehow, and everyone was happy until Jensen decided to share his wisdom, saying something like, I would say good job, but you have a lot to learn. If everybody survives until the end, you're a bad DM. You probably never play with other people until you learn how to not waste their time. To Ivona. I still don't completely understand because I thought it was an innately collaborative thing, but whatever. After hearing this, Jack, of course, couldn't help himself and with a beer raised high in the air, stood next to Jensen and yelled, "Let's have a toast to Jensen. And remember guys, this is a hobby for learning. You're not allowed to have fun." To Jensen, "Everybody thank God for Jensen. Long live Jensen." Cue the laughter again, and cue Jensen slapping the beer out of Jack's hand all over the dinner table and my girlfriend's D&D stuff she had used only once. Since it was too much for her at that point, she started to cry. I told him to leave, and he was about to. Lucy at this point was quiet as ever, just standing there watching like a swole garden gnome. As Jensen was picking up his stuff, my girlfriend decided she was going to give him a talking to. She walks up to him, and without being too close, she starts wagging her finger at him, and as she is about to speak, Jensen pushes her. Remember, Jensen is a big dude, and Ivona falls more than 6 feet backwards right into the beer-soaked table. As Jensen screams about self-defense and I was attacked, Jack, smaller guy than Lucy, runs up to him and gets the exact same treatment as my girlfriend's D&D, except our wall putting a hole in it. At this point, I have lost my mind with anger, and I went to the kitchen to grab a knife. As I was walking out of the kitchen, I find Lucy standing in my way with that same stupid "it'll be okay" smile, which made me even angrier. Just as I was about to scream in Lucy's face for being such a bloody coward, everything went black and I woke up on the kitchen floor in the recovery position. I was out for less than a minute, according to my girlfriend, but that minute changed the atmosphere from chaos and screaming to this cold, tense silence, except for my girlfriend sobbing whilst holding on to me. I checked the other room, and Lucy and Jensen were both gone, Jack just sitting with another beer and singing Smooth Operator whilst pointing at me and winking at me. I love Jack, but I also hate him. I'm going to end the story with 3 perspectives since I missed the show. What Ivona told me, what Jack told me, and finally the conversation I had with Lucy when he showed up to apologise later on. Dude, if he knocked you out and then escorted the guy out without doing anything to him, this dude's an idiot, right? Just saying. Before I left the kitchen, Ivona told me, "There's something seriously wrong with your friend." I said, "That guy is never going to be my friend." To which she said, "Not Jensen, Lucy. He walked out of the kitchen with you looking normal and smiling, then in an instant his face went from that pale white to like bright tomato red, veins bulging out on his forehead, literal death in his eyes, like nothing of who he was left. But he still had the exact same smile. He ran across the room at Jensen, but stopped, so that when Jensen reached out, Lucy grabbed his fingers and bent them down so that Jensen had to fall to his knees. Lucy then slammed his knee into Jensen's stomach and then elbowed his face without letting go of Jensen's fingers. When Jensen fell down onto his stomach and tried standing up, Lucy reached round his neck, grabbing the other side of his collar, pulled it around, said he was holding the collar and the back of his neck to choke him with his left hand. And with his right, he reached behind Jensen, between his legs, and grabbed his balls and squeezed to put Jensen in enough pain to comply. Then, while Jensen was screaming and begging Lucy to stop, he started walking Jensen, balls pulled upward, neck pushed downward, so that his torso was level with the ground as he walked, out of the front door. The way he described this made it sound like he had been a ghost or something. Now on to Jack. Jack, after finishing his stupid drunken smooth operator flirt fest with me, sat down again and pulled out the vodka and coke he had with his bag the whole time, and I asked him what in the hell had happened. Jack said, "What do you think happened? Lucy happened. At least now you know why guys at the gym call him Lucy." I then asked him, how the hell am I supposed to know why he has that zesty nickname? Jack smiles whilst laughing. Fair enough. Basically, one time at the gym, there was a new young aggressive guy who Lucy told to relax and be easy. The guy listens while Lucy is there, but then he partners up with this small woman on her first day and gives this woman a concussion, and the gym banned the woman because they were scared of the legal troubles. What they forgot is that Lucy deals with all the new people. Because he is just a nice guy, right? Said with sarcasm, only a drunk Jack can muster. Well, Lucy took it personally because he felt like her injuries were his fault, which is fair since he was the supervisor. So the next day he partners with the aggressive guy, and Lucy asks, "Are you going to do that again?" The guy says no, so Lucy goes bright red, empty-eyed, and says, "Right, now I'll make sure you don't." Then puts enough of a beating on the guy that he never trained there again. Two of the coaches pulling him off the kid who had a broken nose and tooth, and when there was enough people that Lucy had no chance of winning, he managed to get his gym back, where he pulled out 2 knives, and at that point, everybody decided it might be a good idea to de-escalate. After a few months at our gym, our coach got a call warning them about Lucy, saying, "That guy's a problem. He might seem nice, but the devil always does." Our coaches like Lucy enough that they started joking when telling people, "In sparring, hit as hard as you want to be hit," by saying, "Hey, he's Lucy when you're nice, he's Lucifer when you're not." I know it sounds cringy, but honestly, I understood why my girlfriend was so shaken, just because that was the last explanation I expected for a zesty name like Lucy. Last but not least, my conversation with Lucy himself. He came over apologising, and somehow at this point I didn't realise what he was apologising for. I thought he finally stood up for himself, but lost his temper a bit too much. Turns out, when my girlfriend got shoved, he looked at Jensen and then looked at me heading to the kitchen and decided I was a bigger threat to myself and my future with my girlfriend than Jensen was. When he came to stand in my way, he saw the knife. He didn't punch me, but slapped the side of my head to knock me out, or at least put me out of commission before I did something I'd regret. And this is what he wanted to apologise to me for. He even offered to buy new D&D stuff for my girlfriend. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Like, this is what combat people do, right? This guy, I swear this guy was probably in the military, right? He's got to have been. Because this is how they react. That they normal people would gang up with the guy with the knife against, Jensen. Or they'd try and get Jensen away from the guy with the knife and get him out, right? This guy looks at it calmly, sees where the biggest threat is, right? And just deals with that first. And then takes his time with the little dickhead, right? This guy was in the military or something. I don't know, man. I tried asking what the deal was with how he switched like that, and he brushed it off. So I asked again after something like 9 beers each. He told me how his stepmother physically abused him when he was young, how she would beat him until he ran and hid just so she could torture him with fear while looking for him and taking her time before starting it all again. Oh, that's dark. This led to him getting bullied so badly that he switched schools at least every 2 years. After a few moves, he said something snapped in his head, and he decided that either he lived in fear or he made others afraid first. He never explained how and why he left that mentality behind, but he said 2 things that made sense of it all for me. Number 1, in this world, if you act like food, then predators will feed on you. And if you act like a predator, then there is always a bigger predator ready to eat you instead. Number 2, you have to balance this with the fact that for some people, respect is all they have in the world. If you cross the line, even just a little with somebody, you use the right to complain about how far they cross the line in retaliation. Basically, do everything you can to stay away from that line, but if you do need to cross it, go as far across the line as possible. It's either 0 or 100, with nothing in between. When he said this thing about lines and 0 or 100, nothing in between, I thought of Jack's description in my head. He's Lucy when you're nice, and Lucifer when you're not. I think he's kind of right, He is kind of right, but I think he's right in terms of physical altercation, okay? I am the kind of person who won't start things with people, like, ever. Like, I'm just not that kind of person, right? But I do have a temper. I do have a side to my personality that I'm not that enamoured with. And if somebody crosses a physical line with me, if somebody shoves me or gets in my face, yeah. That pushes me. I get, the red mist comes down, I snap. I just snap. If you cross a physical line, I snap completely. Thankfully, it hardly ever happens. Like, I think it's been like 8 or 9 years since I've even been in a situation that might have ended up that way. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, I've got a temper. And you know what? The temper serves you. As long as you let it serve you and you don't go after people, you don't try and get physical with people, you don't get angry at people for no reason. No. But you let it serve you, right? You stand there, and if somebody crosses that line, you let it out. You go, okay, if this is where we're going, you're going through that window. If this is where we're going, I get so angry in situations like that, I don't care if I die. If something happens to me, I just don't care. Right, I'm going for the jugular. Like, there's nothing, you know. And again, I think people get a sixth sense, especially dudes. I think dudes have a sixth sense about who is more trouble than they're worth. Do you know what I mean? Whenever somebody said something to me in a bar and they're being snide or they're being, you know, they're trying to bully me, usually I look at them and just look at them with utter contempt, you know, or just calm contempt, just like, you know, and it stops. It just stops. Grown men have a sixth sense about who isn't worth taking on. You're not worth it, mate. Now, I'm not hard. I'm not tough. You know, I'm not a martial artist or anything, right? But I think people realise the temper. They know. They can see it behind your eyes, right? They know this guy may not know how to fight, but if I get into a fight with him, he's going to try and kill me, right? So it's not worth it. It is not worth getting into a fight with this person. He's going to lose his shit and try and throw me down the stairs, right? So there's no point. That's basically who I am, right? I very, 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 very rarely get into physical altercations. I think the last one was nearly a decade ago, from what I remember, right? I think I was in the States at the time, Irish guys who were being bullies in a bar, and one of them decided to get into my face. And anyway, long story short, I'd had a few whiskeys at this point. He's in a headlock, and I'm going for his eyes with my other hand, right? My friend jumps on top of me, pulls me off, and this guy walks out, fucking, what's wrong with him? He's crying, right? He's crying. This guy was like going after people all night, shoving them, getting in their faces. He went for a friend of mine who actually has autism, who actually is, you know, who is not a very confrontational person. He went after him, and I just saw red. Saw red. I walked in front of him. He then decided to push me, and I remember almost nothing else. The next thing I remember, I'm being pulled off him by my friend, and he said, "Dude, did you realise you were going for his eyes there?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I'm sorry, blacked out." Right? Again, I'm a normal guy. I'm a nice guy. Lovely guy, I think. Anyway, if you meet me, I'll always buy you a pint, always talk to you. You know, but if somebody's getting in my face, or goes for me, or somebody that I'm with, I lose it completely, you know? I think, like, I'm going to be honest. With you here, John, I'm kind of the same way, right? I wouldn't have gone for a knife, but I would have gone for that guy, hook, line, and sinker, right? Absolutely. I don't care if I get beaten up. Like, you will know you've been in a fight. Like, that's my philosophy. If I need to go there, you're going to wake up the next morning with a broken nose, a few shattered teeth, scratches on your face, and your eye, whatever. You're going to wake up with injuries that aren't, that you're going to go, whoa, don't touch that guy ever again, right? Even if you beat me up, even if I come off worse, you're getting some as well. And bullies don't want that. Bullies do not want that. Bullies can actually sense that in other people. They can sense, again, when you're not going to be worth the hassle. They can just sense it. Grown men can sense it. And those who don't last very long. They get beaten up by other people, not me. They never last very long, right? I just think it's the best way to be. Be completely normal and nice. Don't ever try to get in people's faces. Don't try and belittle them. Don't try and be snide with them. Be a good guy, right? Until people aren't with you. And even then, diffuse the situation. Listen, man, like, there's no need for that, right? Diffuse the situation. Calm it down. But as soon as somebody does cross that line, if they step over that, if you take a finger, I'm taking a fucking arm. Have that mentality, right? And say that to people. It's a good thing to say. You know, you don't want to do this, man. You don't want to do this. If you take a finger, I'm taking a fucking arm. Like, you don't want to do this. It calms a lot of people down. It gives them clarity. Especially if you say, dude, even if you manage to beat me up, you're going to wake up without an eye tomorrow. Yeah, if it's the last thing I fucking do. So don't. Just don't go there. Calms them right down. Like the amount of times over the years, last 20 years, where things have calmed down because I've said something along those lines. Because bullies don't want to know. Like, they want people who aren't going to fight back. If you let them know, dude, I don't care if you beat me up. Like, I'm going to tear one of your testicles off. Like, I'm just going to go there, right? Just don't. Not worth it, right? He's right. I've come down on Lucy's side here. He's right. Never cross the line. But when it does get crossed, take an arm. Take an arm. All right? Again, within reason, but again, try not to get into any of these situations. You know? Diffuse. But if you can't, and they cross that physical line, the gloves are off, mate. The gloves are off. Anyway. I tried asking what the deal was with how he switched like that, and he brushed it off. So I asked again after something like 9 beers each, and he told me, okay, yeah, I've read that bit. That's me being a ridiculous moron. Okay, fast forward a little. My girlfriend still absolutely loves D&D. I pretend to, because she does. Lucy doesn't pretend to like D&D, but him and my girlfriend, soon to be fiance hopefully, bonded a lot over Warhammer 40k. She likes Tyranids, and he likes any Space Marines, but mainly Salamanders and Black Templars. Dude, it's like it's the two different sides of his personality. Salamanders and Black Templars. Ivona said that she only saw Jensen one time about 2 weeks later, with one hand in a complete cast. In the other hand, with one of the finger, only brace thingies and a bruised face. She said his injuries didn't come anywhere close to the severity she thought they were, but he looked terrified when they made eye contact. And Jack, well, Jack is still a complete bellend, but he's ours, and we love him. Moral of the story to me was that to be a bit more charitable of people's differences... Sorry, let me read that. All of this is higgledy-piggledy. Moral of the story to me was that to be a bit more charitable of people's differences. Kind of like how Lucy is 99.9% most of the time. Partly because it is the right thing to do, but also because I really like Lucy as he is, and I really don't want to meet the other guy in his head. I know it's a long one, and I'm not the best writer at all, but if you read this far, thanks for your time, and I look forward to all your future videos. Have a great day, North. John, cheers, mate. Yeah. No, I agree. And again, lads, always try to not get into physical altercations. Yeah? 99.9% of the time, as John just said here, you are able to get away with it without getting into a physical altercation or a fight. 99 times out of 100. Trust me, right? People don't want to fight by and large. They don't. They want to intimidate and bully, right? So just diffuse the situation. They're not worth you getting your you know, they're just not worth it, right? People like this are not worth it. Absolutely not. I'm being honest. Are they worth going to jail? No. But if somebody crosses that line with you or your friends, you are where you are, dude. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Get beaten up and not respond? Are you going to let them get into your physical space and start dominating you like that without responding in kind? No, right? If they cross that line, if they take a finger, take a fucking arm and make sure they never, ever do it again. I've worked in enough bars to know this, dude. Like, it's not, you know, a little scuffle, the police aren't going to come down and throw you in a van, right? Especially if you got witnesses saying he touched you first. It ain't happening. Just remember, don't ever go after people first, right? Don't use it as a first recourse. But the 0.1% of the time, when somebody won't leave you alone and then gets physically aggressive with you, like they're going to actually harm you, take a fucking arm. No mercy. The ram has touched the wall. No mercy. That is my estimation. And you'll keep yourself safe that way, right? They'll never bother you again. Keep yourself safe. Anyway, I love you all a long time. Be safe. Be good. And I will speak to you on Sunday, where we're going to be going over the Iron Hands. Oh, yeah. We're going to be going over the Iron Hands on Sunday for our live stream. Join us then. And I'll see you on Monday for some more Hobby Nightmares. All right? Have a good one. Bye now.